talking about today, which is email list building. And in some respects, a lot of folks still look at the email list building as almost the back seat, the stepchild. It's not. It's just not anymore. Social media is the place to be. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I would say this is that, man, email is foundational today to all of our businesses. And we'll talk about that. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So if some of you may have attended a previous workshop on email, and I promise you this one is completely different. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. And as always, we want you to move from overwhelmed to action. We're not into shtick or tricks or hype, just the why-tos and the how-tos.
Yeah, and one of the things, as most of you know, we don't pitch. We don't try to sell you anything when you attend our workshops, and we're not going to do the same during our webinars. So we've been on webinars and at workshops where, you know, for $9.97 you can get the world. We're not going to do that. We will have some bonuses and just some information for you to be able to download later on if you're interested.
Actually, we were on one of those last night. We were on a webinar last night for a product we just purchased. And instead of it being a how-to on how to use the product, it was an upsell into their user academy. I wasn't very happy. And as Linda, I think you pointed out, right? Yes. We do have a bonus download, so stick around for that. It's our email marketing cheat sheets, stats, strategies, tips, tactics, all the fun stuff that you'll want to know and share with your friends and use at your next social gathering when the conversation begins to stagnate. So who the heck are we? I think most of you know who we are. 2008, we started our own online business, and as I've said time and time again, we had no idea what we were doing, just a desire to do something. And because of that, we hired a lot of folks to help us get set up. You know, they built our websites, they did some social media stuff for us. I mean, everything that we were doing in 2008. And not afraid to admit now that, oh my gosh, scared to death, and geez, we lost a lot because we I still think that we invested, but we invested a lot of money. And at one point found myself thinking, I don't know what's going to happen. How am I going to make this? How am I going to make this work? Am I jeopardizing my family, my marriage, my home, my car, all the stuff? You know, and I think as entrepreneurs, we all go through that. But, you know, by the grace of God, here we are today. But as we've kind of hinted at and talked about, and you've heard us say before, I'm just tired of all the rock star hype stuff that we see online about invest today and, or, you know, $9.97 today and you'll have 10,000 people on your list and you're making money. You know what? Maybe that's out there. I haven't seen it. I can tell you from firsthand experience that to grow a business, especially online, it takes work. It takes hard work. But at the end of the day, I am convinced that success is my responsibility. It's your responsibility. And success does love speed. We just have to move. So from all the stuff we covered today, you know what, take notes, do what you've got to do, but you know what, implement one thing today. You'll be one step closer to where you need to be. And along the way, if something comes up that you're stumped by or just need help with, maybe you'll think of us and we can chat you know, offline down the road somewhere. So why email? I mean, really, with so much hype around social media, why should we use an email? Well, according to Amy Porterfield, who in my opinion is the queen of Facebook. I mean, if you know anything about Facebook or about any systems, she is the one go-to. She would be one I would actually call the guru or an expert. But I'm going to read what she says. When it comes to online marketing, most people are overlooking their #1 biggest asset. Social media activity, offsite ads, and all other tricks are a drop in the bucket compared to the power of the email list. Now, again, this is from the woman who has made a very good living off of selling strategies and services and trainings on Facebook. So she is, like I said, the queen of Facebook. But here she is telling us that it's a drop in the bucket compared to email. So no matter what your subscriber numbers are, your email list is one of the most valuable assets you have in the quest to help your business thrive. When you really understand the value of that list, you'll be more than happy to invest your time, energy, and budget to help that list thrive. And again, that's the things that we want to address today. So again, why email, especially when we have all this stuff, right? And this is just a tiny
small portion,
a small cross section of the social media chaos universe, right?
Yeah, Pinterest, Instagram, blah, all the other stuff.
And admittedly, social media can drive traffic. I mean, that's the way I look at it is I don't look at social media as where I go to market. I go to social media to fish. And maybe it's not the best analogy, but it's one where I go to find where my target audience is at. And like Linda talked about, there's other platforms that are out there depending upon your business. Facebook may or may not be right for you. LinkedIn might be the place to go. Pinterest might be the place to go. It just depends, but it's going to be, it's not where I start. It's something that I go to bring folks back, and I use my email list to do that. You know, what do smart business owners do with the traffic that they get there? Simply, they turn it into an email list.
Yeah, and I think that's the only way that social media can work. So we're going to actually start the poll. Are you capturing leads on social media? Yes or no? We're going to let the poll run while we talk. So make sure you go in and you say yes or no if you're capturing leads on social media.
So Linda made me swear and promise that I wasn't going to get into stats, but I have a way around that, and we'll talk about it in just a second. But look, so here's some things I do want to share, and these aren't my numbers. These are numbers from some big name organizations. So Experian number one, $44 for every $1 spent on email marketing. That's your ROI. Right there alone, that's pretty impressive. Think about this. If I knew I could put $1 for every $1 I put into something, I'm going to get $40 back. How often would you put $1 in? You know, I would even argue that you couldn't put enough dollars in fast enough, because if you knew for every buck you got in, $40 come back out, that's simple math. We don't need to know trigonometry or calculus or algebra or any of that stuff. That's just simple. Now this one I have a little issue with, but according to the Direct Marketing Association, an ROI of 4,300%. That's pretty impressive. I don't know who's getting that, but I do know the Direct Marketing Association is a legitimate organization that's out there. At the end of the day, I would even say if I was getting a 20% return, or something to that effect, if we're where we are in our business, that would be enough. Think about this. In your business, what would it mean to add 1, 5, just 10 new clients per month to your bottom line? If you're selling big products like a house, 1 client by itself would probably be enough. If you're selling a product at $5 or $10, maybe you need more. But again, I don't need to have 4,300%. I just need to have something that's going to be effective and add to the bottom line. Another reason why we talk about using email is, and we talked about this yesterday in our Google Partners live event, but we all walk around with these things in our pocket now called the smartphone, right? I think I've called them portable television studios. I mean, there's so much more than that. 91% of consumers check their email at least daily, and they're doing it on their phones anymore. I may not be looking at my Facebook all the time or my social media all the time, but I know that whether my phone rings, vibrates, beeps, blinks, or doesn't, I still look at it. I mean, think about that. If my phone doesn't make a noise probably every 30 minutes, I'm picking it up just to make sure it's still working. Is it all right? Did I miss something? Social media in itself, maybe I do that, maybe I don't, but I'm still checking on my phone to see who's messaging me. So it's that important. And it's what email is what you want to use to move the conversation to commerce. And I think that's critically important. Email does remain the most effective way for small business to build a customer base, and we're going to talk about some ways to do that. It is low cost, and it is relatively easy to use and maintain. Yes, there are numerous different platforms that are out there. I think we've been on every one of them. I say that jokingly, but we've been on a bunch of them.
Well, not for ourselves, but at least for our clients.
Well, at one point we did use a bunch for ourselves too. So I'll say this, as we're going through, plan on not being married to any one specific strategy. You're going to be moving through several of them. And Linda's prompting me to move on. So
no, we're talking about that in a little bit. So we're going to end the poll right now and get the results.
So are you capturing? Nice. 57% of you are, 43% of you aren't. So those of you that are, congratulations. And for those of you who aren't, you have some low-hanging fruit. That would be one of the first things that I would go and look at in terms of what's my to-do for today. Trust me on this. You'll see some things here that I think will make it meaningful and beneficial to you to want to do that. So as I told you, Linda told me I could not share my favorite things of stats. However, if you are interested, I found a great website. It's not ours, it's somebody else's, but they posted 100 epic email marketing statistics. Go check out this link, and I think you'll find some information there that's pretty impressive. Linda's giving me the eye again. I think we have a delay. There it is. There's my link if you didn't see it. So go check that out, and you'll see some information that, again, makes using email in your business that much more important.
Yeah, especially if you're not using it, it may prompt you to want to. So a lot of you've heard this before and heard us say this: email marketing is not your Gmail, it's not your Outlook, it's not your Hotmail, AOL, or whatever provider you're using for your day-to-day email. Email marketing is a marketing system.
So the good thing about doing a webinar is that you can't see each other. There's no raising of the hands, none of that stuff. But I would say this is that, and this is something that we've just learned along the way as well. Look at your business card right now, and if it has any extension like a .gmail, .hotmail, or whatever, I don't want to change it. I want to sit here. Let me do my webinar. Jeez.
The next slide.
Folks, please, like I said, pray for me. I'm getting beat up here. But anyway, look, let's go to the next slide.
And if you can see me, my hands are in the air saying, see? Just kidding.
I love you, Linda. It's okay. So again, consider your professional image. Think about this. And this isn't for everyone. You've got to evaluate where you're at in your own business. But I do believe that if we're running a business and we want it to grow, we need to think about how we're showing up in the marketplace. So if, you know, here I am. Let's just say a doctor, for instance. If a doctor handed you his business card and it had a .gmail as opposed to Dr. Helen at Helen MD and Associates, I think subconsciously it does make an impact. It has an impact on your image. So I focus on the extension. And this doesn't have to cost you anything, depending upon the platform that you're on. Now, we're not talking marketing platforms yet. I'm just saying if you've got a Gmail account, you don't have to have a Gmail account. And for free or very low fee, maybe $5 a month, you can get rid of that @Gmail extension. You can have it be your company name. It can be your business. It can be your name. It can be anything. But I would encourage you to strongly take a look at that and move it away from those things into something that represents who you are. I'm a big fan of using the company names. I think it makes you look more professional, and it helps you to even do just a little bit more advertising and marketing. But this is what I would do, and I would encourage everyone, if you've got that extension on your business card, it's time to take a look at it, and let's address it.
Yeah, so email marketing is permission based. So what it means is people subscribe and are able to opt out. If you were to send a mass email from your @gmail.com, the people don't have a way to opt out. You want to always make sure they have a way to opt out. So if they don't want to receive your solicitation emails anymore, they can.
So you know what, since I wasn't allowed to put up statistics, I'm going to talk about this just for a second. The reason why that's important, folks, is this: is if someone makes a complaint against you, the FTC's ruling is, and this is a national thing, you could receive a fine of up to $16,000 per complaint per email. You do the math on that quickly, and it adds up. Now, admittedly, I don't know of anyone who's been brought to court and has paid those fines. But the verbiage is there, it does exist, and the potential is there. I would rather be safe than sorry and never have to try to work my way out of even just one $16,000 email fine or penalty. So that's why we want to talk about using some of these permission-based platforms. And again, I think the strategies that we're going to talk about will incorporate using your your personal email at some point. But you want to develop a system, and that's the key here: a system for efficiency and automation, which we'll be talking about. So what's email automation? Again, real simple. It's key to email marketing. Instantly send welcome emails to new customers. You can personalize emails. So if you ever got an email that you knew that the guy or the woman didn't write, but it just said, hey, Michael, hey, Jan, I'm glad that you've done whatever, or, welcome to my whatever. Most of that has been done. It was pre-built, pre-written, weeks, months, years in advance, but they've created a system and used the automation that it has to offer. And I'm extremely keen on automation in my business and in our clients' business, for the simple fact that at the end of the day, most of the folks that we talk to and that are on this webinar, we don't have big box, big company marketing budgets. We don't have big teams of folks that can jump in and respond to things. We have to automate, or we should be automating as much as possible so that we're not distracted, not bogged down, not taken offline, not derailed by the stuff. So the more that we can automate, the better it helps us to run our business efficiently. And these email marketing platforms do just that. Now, the flip side of that also is segmentation, because think about this. We've talked to folks even yesterday who have multiple avatars or target audiences or whatever you want to call them. The real way for us to get better at what we're doing is to also think about different ways we would speak to an audience. There's a gentleman in our workshop yesterday who says, I've got a 71-year-old male and I've got a 31-year-old female audience. One gentleman says, you know, I speak to the military and I speak to church organizations. Well, it doesn't take a lot of energy or thought to put into it to know that you're probably going to want to speak to those audiences differently. Now, when you bring segmentation and automation back into it, I think you can start to see how this picture comes into view that an email marketing platform will really help you, because set up correctly, I can have a message sequence that will speak to my military folks differently than it would speak to my church folks, that may speak differently as a subgroup to a female audience, a young female audience, different than it would speak to an older male audience. And that's key, because if not, what if you had to respond to those emails every day? How much time would it take out of your day? What kind of brain power would you have to give to it to, you know, stop and think and write and send an email out to them? And that's just the first one. What if there's a response? What if there's more responses? Has anyone ever slipped through the cracks? I know in our business, they slipped through our cracks, which is why we had to go to an email marketing platform.
Email marketing is not your Gmail or any of your personal emails. It requires specialized software and platforms like Aweber, MailChimp, NetSuite, Constant Contact, Emma, GetResponse, Infusionsoft. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Literally, there's so many out there. But what's really key is what works for you in your budget. Some of these are free, all the way up to
thousands of dollars a month.
So you just have to figure out what's going to work for you. And to Charles's point earlier, when we first started our online business years ago, we started with MailChimp because it was free. But then there was limitations that we knew we had to then get into Aweber and Constant Contact. We actually were running Aweber and Constant Contact simultaneously. So, you know, then we went to GetResponse. And, you know, ultimately, I mean, now we're with Infusionsoft just because there's conditional logic, there's shopping carts, it's just so much more. Yeah. But again, you know, everyone's business is different. You need to figure out what works best for you.
And our job here today isn't to tell you which one is better or any worse. It's just to let you know what's available. And I would say this, like our own path has been, you know, pick one, run with it until you figure out the limitations, and then maybe it's time to switch to another one later on, but just get started. And here's a point that I really want to drive home. This is not an expense. This is an investment. Because if my investment here can save me time, effort, and energy, there is a return on investment in that by itself. So start looking at these things as investments and not necessarily the expense side of it. You know, because here's the thing. With Infusionsoft, I could get hung up on how much we're paying monthly, but when I stop and think about how much time and effort and energy we're saving, then I look back at the side of the, I come back down to earth and I think about the investment and what it's saving us. So again, these are investments, not expenses.
Yeah, and it's a, well, here we go. So let's say it's a system that actually makes your business run better. So I didn't even know this was in here.
You know how cool it is? Well, think about this, Mrs. Musselwhite. It's so cool that we build these custom because we, you know, that's why they're such easy segues. We know what's coming up. So, oh, look at that. Audience participation poll number 2.
Yes. So are you currently using
polls? Email
marketing platform, yes or no?
You have to highlight it and you have to start it.
Start the poll. So again, are you currently using email marketing platform, yes or no? We'll get the answer in a little bit. And we're going to continue to talk. So I'll let you go to the next slide.
So like I said, there isn't a right or wrong platform. It is preference. You know, whatever is easiest for you in your business, especially if you as the entrepreneur and sole business owner are doing all the work. I think once you get to a point where you can hire somebody, maybe you have a deeper discussion, but at the time when it's your hands on it yourself, it's going to be whatever's going to be easiest for you, and your learning curve isn't going to be so painful. It's like anything else. If it hurts, I don't want to do it. But your time, attention, and focus when it comes to this stuff needs to be on 3 things.
Your message, your market, and your content. And that's what's really important.
And I would actually put it in that order. and we'll talk about this a little bit more in depthly here, but again, it's your message, your market, and your content. Your message is, speaks to who you are, what you're all about, what you're out in the world to do. Your market are those folks that are waiting for you to show up. I think it's a little bit different than typically most folks hear about it. I want to repeat that. Your market is the folks that are waiting for you to show up. Doesn't mean that we don't go out and we network and market and try to put people into our funnel, but I'm convinced after doing this for a number of years that, you know what, when I get my message correct and I'm looking for the right audience, people are, the right target market is there waiting for you to get there. And then your content, which is next, which is something I always struggle with, and I think a lot of us do. We'll talk about that in a minute. Your message. This is where we talk about planning your campaigns in your email marketing platform. And I want to pause here again just for a second. So whether you're using Constant Contact, Aweber, GetResponse, Infusionsoft, Entrepreneur, doesn't matter. The idea here, though, is that we're going to create what they call campaigns, and that's a general terminology that's used across all the different platforms that are out there. A campaign simply does this. It's a list or a set of automated messages that are designed to move someone from beginning to an end. Maybe it's a welcome message. Maybe I put something on your website for them to download. But that's the beginning of building your list. I call it the ethical bribe, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But a campaign starts with what's my goal? In this case, it would be adding someone to my list. How am I getting them on my list? I'm either going to offer them something to download, to watch, or there's some exchange in terms of what I'm giving them in exchange for their name and email. So that's my campaign, and maybe the campaign is three emails. Maybe it's more. One of our campaigns, as most of you know, is our Monday morning marketing minute or tips or whatever I call it these days. I can't remember. But that's 52 different messages for marketing, and that's a campaign. It runs. We built it once. We built it over 2 years ago, and it's a 52-week campaign. It just goes out. So, and the other thing to think about is think about the problems that you solve for your target audience. That's where I would always focus at.
Yeah, and I think what's really key to this is planning. So make sure that you're consistent when you're planning your campaigns. And I know we talk about this later about thinking about how you're going to send them, when you're going to send them, but actually writing down or typing out what you're going to send. So planning what your content's going to be, and again, we're going to talk about that.
Should we end that poll? I guess not yet.
Not yet.
So go ahead. Sorry.
So no, I was going to start with what problems do you solve? Tell your story.
Yeah, tell your story, but I'd say tell your story as long as it solves their problem. It's the 80-20 rule. Speak about yourself a fraction of the time that you speak about your client. Let them know that you know what they're dealing with, or wrestling with, or struggling with. And it may sound funny, but like I was saying yesterday, even if I'm searching for a restaurant in town, that's a problem. I need to go somewhere to eat. I want to be able to show up. So how do you solve that problem for me? How do you solve your problem for your clients? Whether you're a mentor, a business coach, or realtor, you're selling some sort of a service, how do you solve that problem? How do you put people on your list? How do you show them what your differentiations are? Do you tell them that you are the answer to what they're looking for? That's all key stuff to think about and should be part of your email marketing campaign. So list your goals and objectives. I always talk about this. And maybe some of them are just to reestablish contact. Maybe you want to get so many subscribers to open your email list. So we've worked with some customers who had just deplorable email marketing stats, meaning that their open rates were less than 5%, their bounce rates were high, they had big problems. Now, I'm not saying that we have all the answers, but through best practices and through our experiences, we've actually had some folks that we were up in the area. What did we do for the gym? 80%?
Almost 80%.
And which is unheard of. So, as Tom Lasorda would say, results are typical. Eat a healthy diet, stay in school, that kind of fun stuff. But an 80% open rate is unheard of. Typically, we see somewhere in the 20 to 40%. But look at your numbers, see where you are now, and maybe one of your goals or objectives is to get your open rate up. Maybe it's just to get them to click a link, visit a page on your website, take some action, download their report, respond to an event. All those are legitimate goals and objectives, but you've got to plan for them. How are you going to get them to do that? And
what's really neat about that is when you are using an email marketing platform, you'll able to see who opened it, who clicked on something in there, who downloaded, So that way you can see what their interest is, and depending on the platform, it could actually move them to another level and talk to them in another way. That's a whole nother strategy, but just think, when you send something out of your, your Gmail or Outlook account, you don't even know if they opened it, number one, let alone click on things or are interested.
Linda, you said something I just want to spend a second on. Learning what they're interested in, because what I've unfortunately learned the hard way is that although I might have 100 things that I want to tell you and they're valuable and I think they're pertinent and important, you may not care. My job needs to be finding out what your hot button topics are and speaking to those things. That's why on this slide here we talk about know your audience intimately, live in their nightmare. How do you solve their problems? And from my experience, the problems that they have, or the concerns or worries that they have, or the interests that they have, aren't always the ones that I thought they were. So that's why looking at your responses and your analytics are so important, because it will guide and direct you as to the story that you need to tell. And then the other thing is finding out where your audience is in concentration. And what I mean is, where do they hang out at? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Maybe they're just a face-to-face that you've got to do more manual. Maybe it's advertising in a specific directory or newspaper or whatever. Linda just made a face. Did you make a face?
Well, that opens up a can of worms. So when you do put something in a newspaper and a print publication, you always want to put a link in there so you know if someone has read it. Make them actually enter that into their browser and do something so you know if that print advertising worked.
And we could go on that one, but
maybe that's another webinar.
Yeah. So your market, who are your best customers? Find and focus on a starving crowd. So instead of trying to push the rock uphill, let me find where the starving crowd is, and I can push the rock downhill, and it rolls and picks up momentum on its own. They're highly motivated, they're highly responsible, and more importantly, they're looking for you. Like I said before, people are waiting for you to show up. I promise you that. We've seen this time and time again.
Yeah, you also need to focus on the demographics. You need to know your market. You need to know if they're male or female, young or old. I mean, you need to know them intimately, like we said earlier. Kids, no kids. I mean, if it's a geographical location that they're at, you need to hone in there. I mean, what's their income? The demographics could go on and on and on. I mean, it could go as far as what kind of car they drive, their education. It just depends on your business and your market. I mean, your business and your services. And then just honing in on that demographics, that market.
Absolutely. And this, by the way, isn't just specific to email. And I'm sure you guys all know that. This transcends all of our marketing efforts and should really be foundational to everything that we're doing.
And it could even be the professional organizations that they belong to. So for a lot of you in your businesses, you need to think about, again, what Charles said, where they're hanging out. Not just online, but in person as well for networking purposes. So I mean, think about that in your business and where you can go. I know for realtors, you could go to the local board. There's a bunch of different people there, but think about where you could go and network at.
And don't forget the psychographic side of things too. Personality, attitudes, values, interests, hobbies, lifestyles, all that becomes important, and it will mold and shape the message that you create for your market.
So I know we have a poll results coming up, but real quick in the chat box, I hope you guys are getting some valuable information. If you could just plug in yes or no, or we're following you, yes, we're doing good, we understand, that would be great, so we can get some feedback going in case we need to just scrap this and just start over. Just kidding.
You scared me there for a second. What are you going to put a video of me up dancing? That's not going to work. So good email content deepens your relationship with your audience through effective email subject line writing. This may or may not be common, whatever, but think about this. It's kind of like the realtor. It's location, 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 right? And what's the most valuable real estate in an email? It's the subject line. Because think about your own behaviors or habits. Do you open every email that you get? And I would probably argue that you probably delete more than you open. But of the ones that you do open, why are you opening them? I would say that you're probably opening some of them because of the fact that you know who it's coming from. But I think the ones that are unsolicited, you either delete or open because of the subject line itself. So that's going to be very, very important. And here's the thing, it is an art and a science. Trust me, from someone who has at times just made a fool of myself and done horrible jobs on subject line writing to now having figured out at least a little bit. I study a lot of other folks. I study the folks who call themselves gurus and experts and all those, and look at what they do so that I can use it in my business and our clients' business. And to take it a step further, which I know we've talked about many, many times, an easy way to get this down is to go find the person in your industry, or maybe not in your industry, maybe they're in a different industry, but who has the audience that you want, and who has that audience in mass. What are they doing? I would tell you, subscribe to their stuff, get on their email list. More than likely they're using an email marketing platform, so they may not know that you're on there, and even if they do, who cares? To me, that's market research. I want to go and see what they're doing, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, and to who they're doing it, so that I can make it my own. I can take that campaign, I can take that research, tweak it, change it up, massage it, make it my own, and do the same thing and start to generate similar results. Deliver quality, niche specific content. I mean, all that's kind of what we just talked about. So outside today's scope and focus, though, but important is what day to send, what time to send, how much to send, who to send. This is going to be different for every audience that's out there. Again, we've seen this time and time again. One of our most surprising ones, I know you want to talk about that,
was what, a Saturday?
Yeah.
So we have a lot of examples to give, but one was professionals, actually doctors, on a Saturday. So, I mean, you would think that business, is held Monday through Friday, but what we had found was, for a particular client, was that sending things through LinkedIn, doing things like that, the doctors were actually on LinkedIn on a Saturday. We had another client that's a big company, talks to other big corporations, and Sunday was actually working for them. So again, you need to find, you need to figure out first who your target is, and then when they're on. There's roles out there right now. I need to send Wednesday at 10 a.m. I mean, you have to test it and see what works. I would always say try sending on the weekend and see what happens.
Just a reminder, there is a bonus download today, stats, strategies, tips, tactics. Don't forget to pick that up. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. But let's talk about the results here. So let's close that poll. And again, are you currently using an email marketing platform? We have 57% say yes, 43% say no. So same thing. If you're not using an email marketing platform right now, your goal, in my opinion, today would be to start looking at which one you can use, implement, how to use it, and we can talk to you about that more at a later point. So let's dig into some ideas. So one of the first things that we do for a lot of our clients is we create what we call a consumer awareness guide, or what you might also hear as a lead magnet. These are some of the things that we've created for some of our clients. And here's how simple it is. This doesn't need to be very in-depth, but in your business, think about the 10 questions that you answer most often. I would write those down. Maybe put each question, one question per page. Underneath that question, what is your typical response? And then I might have someone else read it or look at it or answer it or talk to a current client. But then how can you flesh this out? How can you write it out to become a report or a white paper? And again, sleeping in their nightmare, or living in their nightmare, how do you address their fears, worries, or concerns? So, for this, we had a client, we have a client that was doing ERP, which is enterprise resource planning. It's a very dry topic. But for their target audience, which was wholesale distributors, they were going through some challenges. So this I think it was like a 20-page guide with graphics. It might sound like it was a big project, but it really wasn't. With this guide, we were able to address the fears, worries, and concerns that these wholesale distributors had, and we were able to position our client as a solution to add people to their list and start a conversation. So the idea with this is, we put this on the front page of their website. We put it in their social media. We had them use it in specific ads and specific other periodicals around the country where their target audience was at. And a lot of folks wanted to download this free guide. We made it free, but the ethical bribe was, in exchange for your name and email, then you get this report. Another client we did the same thing was disaster recovery system or services, the cloud. Seeing that that's a hot topic today, there was a lot of confusion out there. We wrote another one specifically for them. We have a client that does MMA stuff. Same thing. We wanted to get some personal training clients in their business. So we put together I think that was about a 16-page report on the right things to do, how to do, when to do, and it was on the front page of their website, all through their social media. Again, it was a download in exchange for their email so that we can continue the conversation with them. You can also, and here's the thing, you use those in such a way that it helps to weed out the folks that you want to talk to or you don't want to talk to. Because think about it, someone looking for nutritional supplements isn't going to download the ERP guide and vice versa. So this helps to bring in and magnetically attract the right folks that you want to talk to and continue the conversation with. You may even think about hosting a giveaway of some sort. And I would say, take this with some caution. I'm not into giving away a lot of stuff. I definitely don't want to. I don't want you to commoditize your service or your product. But there are ways to do giveaways to grow your list.
Yeah, I actually saw something the other day. It was pretty funny. It was for a garage door company that you get a free garage door and you only had to pay for labor. So that was their free giveaway. But I mean, you can do, I'm thinking of who's on the call right now, with jellies. There's different things you can give away that would, that would entice someone to at least try your product or service, and then continue the conversation via email.
The one specifically for jellies, I might give away my top 10 best recipes using your jellies. Highlight the meal, highlight the dish, highlight the entree, and tell them, be very descriptive in that, and then how your jellies actually mix well with what they're doing, what they're preparing.
And partnering with companies that will complement your own would be a great way as well. Engaging with brands, you can cross promote. Just think if you were, in particular, the MMA gym, and you brought on a particular product, they would promote you and you could promote their product. So having that other person, talking for you is always a great way to get new people on your list.
And this is one specifically that we worked with in town. There's a gym partnered with the supplement folks, and they were able to grow their list together. And I kind of made a little, what I thought was funny. Maybe you guys don't think it's funny, but the MMA, for instance, the MMA gym, for instance, would not want to partner with a wedding planner because their audiences aren't going to overlap. But obviously, you guys already know that. So, another one, Linda always reminds me is just ask. Tell them what you've got. Tell them what it'll do for them. And then tell them what to do next. And I repeat that because it may sound simple, but it's something that a lot of folks miss. Tell them what you've got, tell them what it will do for them, and tell them what to do next. So take action, get organized, schedule now, sign up here, click to download. All of those things, tell them what to do next. It's extremely important to make sure that you have those three elements in some way, shape, or form in whatever it is that you're doing, and making sure that they follow those steps to get on your list.
So in every email, you should have a call to action, whether it's a graphic or not, but you should have in there, contact us today, download this now, click here to read more. So definitely in your email, don't put everything in there. You want them to click and go back to your website. So it's something to think about when you're formulating your email marketing.
Yeah, and also don't forget your network, especially online. I didn't want that to be first, but it's got a lot of energy and potency in it. You've already made an investment in LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, I'm sure, for a while now. What are your numbers? Whether you've got 100 fans or 10,000 fans or connections or subscribers, use your network. Share what you've got with them and have them reshare. Have them post on their sites and on their walls to do some other things. And you can add, depending upon the website that you've got or depending upon the platform that you're on, there's a way to embed the widget, especially on Facebook, there's a way to embed the right widgets so that they can enter your list through through some simple clicks and downloads and enters and all the other fun stuff that they can do.
Yeah, most of the email platforms have code that you can drop into social media, which is really nice. So another thing is to add checkbox to your form. So when you're collecting an email address, think about what else you could add to that lead generation form that you can get more information from them. Just think if you were able to say, for a realtor, for instance, I'm interested in Marietta, Temecula, Menifee, Wildomar. Having checkboxes in there so that way you know how to direct that email marketing to them. You would only send them listings for that particular city. It's something to think about when you're actually doing email marketing, is to put options in there, and that way you know how to talk to them.
Well, let's think about this one specifically. If someone downloads your report on, the 10 best locations or the 10 best kid vacations around, or something to that effect, right? You put together your awareness guide. They downloaded that. In the process of downloading that, you might even ask them, are they interested in some other features, some other destination? Do they need help with special accommodations? Do they need this? Do they need that? And if your email marketing platform is set up correctly, you could then move them from one list onto another list automatically. And the benefit of that is you wouldn't necessarily have to spend a whole lot of time managing that process for them. It would happen automatically behind the scenes. And I think that's extremely valuable, because here's the thing: no one would fall through the crack. It would be done for you. But the visitor or the prospect, whatever you want to call them, the target at the other end, feels as if you're speaking to them specifically. They feel as if you're having a one-on-one conversation with them, and that's so important.
So list hygiene is very important. Charles mentioned about the Can Spam Act, the $16,000 fine that you could possibly get. So that's what's important about making sure that your list is not old, that you are able to market to these people that you want to talk to. So we're going to go into a little bit of things on that.
For list hygiene, as you know, no one wants to get complaints. That's a big no-no. Bounces and unsubscribes are undesirable as well. I think unsubscribes are an indication that you don't have the right messaging going on with your audience. Bounces, those are inevitable. You have hard bounces, you have soft bounces. Depends upon the deliverability. People do change emails, things do happen, and they don't necessarily update all of their info with you. That's going to happen, but you definitely don't want to get any complaints. Now, here's the thing: all three of these do have an impact on your sender's score. So list hygiene is extremely important. I would say once a month, no more than once a quarter, or no less than once a quarter, go in and clean these things up. We actually look at ours on a weekly basis and remove folks who have unsubscribed or have bounced, just so that we don't have them on our list, because I need to keep, and you want to keep, your sender score as high as possible, because it does affect deliverability.
Which goes against your numbers, which you want to make sure that you're having accurate analytics in your email marketing, so you know what's working. Clients that had never cleaned their email list, and emails were bouncing for a year straight, and they weren't getting accurate results from their analytics, seeing what was actually working in their email marketing.
This is kind of more of the same. It's if your list is old, recycled, poorly maintained, a good scrub may be exactly what you need. And one of the stories is we had a woman who had 43,000 people on her list. That's a big number, and it feels like that's there's a lot of value there. Unfortunately, less than 5%, 10% for sure were actually active, and it took a lot to convince her to let go of a lot of the dead weight and dead wood. But when we did, it actually we saw improvement on deliverability, improvement on interaction and engagement, and sales. So it's not always about the size of the list, it's about the quality of the list. I would rather have 100 folks that are engaged and interested than 10,000 anything that are never going to do anything with me. So again, think about hygiene. It may feel counterintuitive to remove a name, but sometimes that's exactly what we've got to do.
Yeah.
Audience participation poll. Have you received any good ideas yet? We'll start the poll, and we will move on, because you'll see that pop up.
So we talked about, you are the differentiation. So one of the things you need to remember is, as a rule of thumb, is be yourself. Although you may not be this girl on here, but you need to let people know your personality, because you want to stand apart from your competition, from the crowd.
Yeah, everyone on the call today, clearly, none of us are in an isolated industry. None of us have cracked the code on something that people are beating a path to our door on. So how do we, what's our uniqueness? How do we stand out? That's key, and that goes back to your messaging, because in our field, for instance, there's a ton of marketers out there. You all know that to be true, because I'm sure they've knocked on your door, sent you emails. One of the things that we found that worked really well for us is the fact that we are a husband and wife team. We're not right for everybody, but the folks that do hire us are intrigued by the fact that we work less than 6 feet apart, more than 24 hours a day together. Not that that's part of, not that that's why they hire us, but that's part of our differentiation. and the fact that we don't do the hype, big hair nonsense. It's just why-tos and how-tos.
And 4 eyes, I guess, too.
What is 4 eyes? What does that mean? Strategy number 1, build great content. Now, clearly, we all know what this is, and it's easier said than done. Believe me on this, and you guys know this to be true yourselves. So if you're not great at writing content, find a partner. Find someone that will write it for you. I struggled with this for a long time. Thankfully now we've got a team of folks that actually write for us. I've been getting better. I do some of my own writing, but I would encourage you, unless you are gifted at writing, it's another investment to find someone who can write great content for you and take time and burden off of your plate to do those things and just have it done when you need it to get done. And a great little segue here would be next month, March 11th, we have another webinar on creating killer content. We'll be talking about blogging, articles, press releases to a degree, videos, social media. So it'll be a smorgasbord of things, tips and tactics that we've been doing for a while now on creating killer content. Strategy 2, understand the opportunities and limitations of your email service provider. Again, not all those platforms are going to be the same. Pop quiz, and this isn't necessarily a poll, but how well do you know the email service provider that you have right now? Do they require double opt-in? Some do, some don't. Do they allow you to test A/B, A/B split testing? Again, some do and some don't. Can you manually import a customer list? Some do, most don't. And
You have to approve it.
That can be problematic to you. It could be a way to clean your list, but sometimes that can cause a problem. Are you able to send out time-based email autoresponders? Some will, some won't. Some will let you actually send it in the exact time zone of that person. So if you're in California and you've got clients on the East Coast or all through the United States, some of these platforms can let you deliver it at 6:05 a.m. in their correct time zone. Some won't. Are you able to send out a new autoresponder based on specific action? That's one of the things that we love about Infusionsoft is depending upon what they click or don't click, we can have them go down a different path, which is very revealing and very telling. So by the time it's time to have a conversation with with this person, we know what their interests are, what their dislikes are, and what we should be talking to them about or not.
So one of the things you need to think about is creating multiple lead opportunities. So not just having one thing out there, but having multiple out there and see what's working, see what people are clicking on, see what those what those targets are. Some people prefer a webinar, others just want a cheat sheet. Some people want you to step through a process with them, or they want a full report. So you need to just think about creating multiple lead magnets and see what your target actually wants from you.
And again, continue to test.
Yeah.
Even if it's on a quarterly basis. Test the headline, test the specific lead magnet that you've got, change a graphic, change the stats, and make sure everything is up to date and current. One of the things that we see often is that people are still using things from 2012, and I think that's probably one of the easiest ways to have a prospect lose confidence with something as simple as updating a date on a form or on a web page or wherever it's at.
And your lead magnet can even be a coupon. I mean, think about what you're offering. So maybe it's a discount code, maybe it's a coupon, maybe it's something that will entice them to purchase.
Think about this. We all respond differently to different modalities. Some want it one way, some want it another way. I'm not a reader. I guess I am a reader actually, but if I had my preference, I would listen to a video over reading a 1,500 word anything. So maybe that's what you do. Think about that in your business. Putting out a 30-second video. It doesn't need to be you. It could be a PowerPoint presentation that you convert in video. It can be anything that just says what's the problem, here's the solution, here's what to do next. And think about how you can use those to draw folks in and to put them on your list. Don't forget to use your email service to its full potential. It's not just a mechanism for broadcasting. To get the best out of it is definitely to use the automation side of it and the segmenting side of it. Track and tag your leads. See where they've come in from. Focus more time there.
Yeah, so one of the things you can do is use a website shortener like Bitly or Googly, where you can actually put something on, say, your blog or on LinkedIn or Facebook, but different actual links that you can at least see where they came from. One cool thing is if you put them all the way back, if you send them all the way to your website, which is always what we recommend, and you have the Google Analytics on your website, you can see where that referring link came from, whether it came from a web search or LinkedIn or Facebook or somewhere else.
One more thing. I forget what the one more thing is.
One more thing. Some common mistakes when creating email. Make sure that you're not doing this. Sending without permission, number one. That's the first way to get people to say that you spam them. Some of the email marketing platforms, actually all of the email marketing platforms have a percentage of spam emails that they allow. There are some out there that basically if you get 1 or 2 spam complaints a month, they will cancel your service. So you need to make sure that you are sending emails with permission. So never send an email without permission. So if you're at a networking event and someone gives you a business card, unless they say send me an email, you really do not have the permission to send them an email in your email marketing platform. Just something to think about.
Yeah, the best way to do that again would be to pick up the business card and tell Bill or Sue to visit your website or to go here and download this thing. The act of them signing up is that permission. If you came back to the office or whatever and added them to your list and sent it out, that would be a violation. Another thing is, we talk about this a lot, never ever purchase an email list. And there's a lot of reasons why not to do that. Number one is the email marketing platform rules and regulations don't allow it. It still does happen. They've gotten smart with this, and sometimes on those lists, they will embed I forget what they call it, but it's a fake email address, knowing that if you send to it, they never requested it, and that could blacklist your email. And that would be a hard thing to overcome. Don't be so salesy. Talk to them like you're just talking to a person that you've met at Starbucks or at a restaurant. I don't think we need to sell anymore. We need to educate. Tell people how we're different, what we do, how we can help them. That goes a long way. Don't go crazy like I do and use exclamation points or all caps.
Subject line.
Yeah, exactly. In the subject line, I think I'm addicted to exclamation points, so we need an intervention on that. Always look at your reports. That tells you what's working, what isn't. And don't just send out emails without split testing them. Sure, it may happen, and you may need to get something out the door, and I understand how that works out. But as much as possible, you want to split test, and you always want to look at what your numbers are.
And I want to talk about number 2 really quickly. So say you don't want to confuse transactional emails with email marketing. So say someone purchases something from you. That doesn't mean that they're on your list now. When you sell someone something, you need to get their permission. So again, back to that checkbox, asking them, do I have your permission to send you emails? I'm sure you've seen that when you've purchased things. So make sure that you are doing that.
We started something new, and I just want to share it with you. This is, again, not a upsell or a cross-sell, but we call it, we came with this intriguing title called The Community. Pretty earth-shattering there. Free registration. You can go there and get in. We have a bunch of cheat sheets and checklists. We're adding new stuff all the time. And I would even ask here is, what is it that you might want to learn more about? Different strategies, different ideas. Is it about your website? Is it video, content, social media? I mean, the list can go on and on and on. Our goal and objective here, though, is to speak to what it is that you want and not necessarily what we want to share with you.
And some of you are already in the community, so make sure that you go back and visit. We're adding new things all the time in there.
As a matter of fact, all the archives for these webinars will be in there as well.
So our webinar series, we are committed to do one a month to help all the local businesses, or not local businesses, businesses everywhere, but we love to have all the local folks on here as well. March 11th is Killer Content. April 14th is playing the Google game. So we'll be talking a lot about Google and their different assets and how to play nicely with them. Let's talk about that just for a second. We are a Google partner. We've been in their Google program for over 2 years now. And love them, hate them, doesn't really matter. Google owns the game when it comes to a lot of stuff that we're doing online. Last year alone, there was upwards of 400 different algorithm changes, which affects how the way people find you. So Google is still very relevant, still very important, and we're going to share some of the secrets that we've learned on how just to increase your online visibility and improve being found. We did this for a company not too long ago, which Jimmy Fragos is on this call today. I'll share this briefly. We helped them move from basically obscurity to dominating the first page of
of Google for their search terms in their geographic areas without spending a whole lot of money. They didn't do ads, but we just started doing some things differently to their website and with video.
May 13th, we're going to do websites for success, and then we're going to keep adding more. But if you have any ideas or something you'd like to hear, let us know, and we'd be happy to add that.
I know we covered a ton, and as promised, there is no pitch, but if you want our help, we're available. This is a Q&A time, so we'll stick around if you've got questions.